I never thought I'd die alone in the void between stars. The alarm screamed through the cockpit of my reconnaissance vessel, the horizon's edge, as the navigation systems flickered and died one by one. Red warning lights painted my face in hellish colors while I fought with the controls, trying to coax some life out of the failing thrusters. Come on, I muttered, slamming my fist against the console. The impact did nothing except hurt my hand. I was nobody special. Just Daniel Cross, a mid-level scout for the Terran Exploration Initiative, assigned to map uncharted systems in the Outer Veil. 28 years old, average height, average build, brown hair that was always a bit too messy, and a face that blended into any crowd. I'd chosen this job because I liked being alone, liked the quiet vastness of space where nobody expected anything from me. Now that solitude was going to kill me. The asteroid field had come out of nowhere, or rather my sensors had failed to detect it, until I was already threading through tumbling rocks the size of moons. One impact, that's all it took. A chunk of ice and iron no bigger than a transport shuttle had clipped my starboard engine, and now I was spinning toward an uncharted planet with no way to stop. Through the viewport, I could see it growing larger, a world of deep purples and blues with massive storm systems swirling across its surface, and 3 silver moons hanging in its sky like watching eyes. Beautiful, terrifying. The hull groaned as I hit the upper atmosphere. The ship wasn't designed for atmospheric entry, especially not a catastrophic one. Heat washed over the vessel, and I could smell smoke filtering through the life support systems. I strapped myself in tighter and closed my eyes. The impact, when it came, was worse than I'd imagined. Metal screamed. My body slammed against the harness hard enough to crack ribs. The world became a chaos of sound and violence and pain, spinning, tumbling, crushing. I tasted blood. The viewport shattered, and purple sky streamed in along with an atmosphere that burned my lungs with its unfamiliar composition. Then, darkness. I woke to silence and agony. Every breath felt like broken glass shifting inside my chest. My left arm hung at a wrong angle, definitely broken. Blood ran down my face from a gash across my forehead, sticky and warm. The emergency beacon on my wrist was flashing, a pathetic little red light that would take years to reach the nearest Terran outpost. The horizon's edge was in pieces around me. The cockpit had separated from the main hull during the crash, and now I was lying in a crater of scorched earth, surrounded by twisted metal and sparking wires. The air smelled like ozone and something sweet, almost floral. I tried to move and immediately regretted it. White-hot pain lanced through my torso, broken ribs definitely, possibly internal bleeding. My survival training kicked in. Stay still, assess injuries, call for help. But there was no help coming. Not out here. Not for months, maybe years. I was going to die on this nameless purple world. The sky above was deeper than Earth's, a rich violet fading to indigo at the horizon. The 3 moons were visible even in daylight, pale crescents hanging overhead. Strange crystalline structures rose in the distance, catching the light of the system's binary stars and throwing rainbows across the alien landscape. Beautiful. I'd at least die somewhere beautiful. That's when I heard the sound, a low thrumming like nothing I'd ever heard. It vibrated through the ground, through my broken body, resonating in my bones. I turned my head, slowly, carefully, and saw them approaching across the purple plains. Ships, but not like any human vessel. They were organic in shape, flowing curves of metal and something else, something that seemed almost alive. They moved without visible propulsion, gliding through the air as if gravity were merely a suggestion. 3 of them, each different in design, each radiating power that made my teeth ache. They descended around my crash site like predators circling wounded prey. The first ship was all sharp angles and gleaming chrome, crystalline structures integrated into its hull that pulsed with cold blue light. The second was darker, its surface rippling like liquid mercury, with veins of gold running through its structure. The third was elegant, almost delicate, made of what looked like pale white bone inlaid with patterns of deep red. Hatches opened. Figures emerged. I tried to sit up, managed to prop myself on my good elbow. My hand instinctively went to the plasma pistol at my hip, but the holster was empty, lost in the crash. Not that it would have mattered. The beings that approached were clearly not human, but they were humanoid. Bipedal, roughly my height or taller, with faces that were alien yet somehow comprehensible. But it was their presence that hit me first. An aura of absolute authority, of power so profound it made the air itself seem heavier. The first was tall and lithe, her skin a pale blue that seemed to shimmer in the double sunlight. Her eyes were entirely silver, without pupils, reflecting the world around her like mirrors. She wore armor that looked like frozen lightning, crystalline plates that moved with her like liquid. Her hair floated around her head in defiance of gravity, pure white and crackling with barely contained energy. The second was shorter, but more powerfully built, with skin like polished obsidian that reflected the purple sky. Golden markings ran across her face and arms, in patterns that seemed to shift when I wasn't looking directly at them. Her eyes burned with an inner amber light. She wore robes that might have been fabric or might have been shadow itself, constantly moving, constantly changing. The third was the most disconcerting. Her skin was pale as moonlight, almost translucent, with veins of crimson visible beneath the surface. Her eyes were red, not bloodshot but truly red like rubies catching light. Her hair was long and black, adorned with what looked like small bones and crystalline ornaments. She wore elegant armor of white and red, form-fitting and detailed with designs that hurt to look at too long. They stood at the edge of the crater, staring down at me. I tried to speak, but only managed a cough that sent fresh waves of pain through my chest. The blue-skinned one tilted her head, her silver eyes reflecting my broken form. When she spoke, her voice was like wind chimes, beautiful, alien, and somehow I understood every word despite never hearing her language before. "It lives," she said, almost surprised. "How fragile." The obsidian-skinned one descended into the crater with fluid grace, her amber eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made me want to look away. "A human," she said, her voice deep and resonant, like distant thunder. "I have only seen them in transmitted records, never in flesh." "Nor have I," said the pale one, her red eyes glittering with something that might have been hunger or curiosity or both. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but it carried clearly. "How uninteresting." I finally found my voice, though it came out raspy and weak. What are you?" The blue one smiled, and it was not a comforting expression. "I am Empress Vexis of the Crystalline Dominion. My empire spans 14 systems and commands fleets that darken the stars. I am Empress Zolthara of the Shadow Territories," said the obsidian-skinned woman. 22 systems bow before me. Entire species have been brought to enlightenment under my rule. "And I am Empress Cyrith of the Crimson Dynasty," whispered the pale one. "My bloodline has ruled for 10,000 of your years. 30 systems are my inheritance." I blinked, trying to process this through the haze of pain. Empresses, plural, and they were all here, standing around my crashed ship like I was some kind of curiosity. "What do you want?" I managed to ask. Empress Vexis's silver eyes narrowed. "The question is not what we want, human. The question is what you are doing in neutral space between our territories. This planet sits at the junction of our 3 empires." "I crashed," I said, stating the obvious. "My ship malfunctioned. I didn't know this space was claimed." "Everything is claimed," Empress Zolthara said, crouching beside me. Up close, I could see that her golden markings were moving, actually flowing across her skin like liquid metal. "But you are the first human to venture this far into our region. We had heard rumors of your kind. Weak, short-lived, possessing no natural abilities, but we had never seen one." Her hand reached out and I flinched. She paused, then touched my cheek with surprising gentleness. Her skin was warm, almost hot. "He is injured," she said, turning to the others. "Severely. He will die without intervention." "Then he will die," Empress Cyrith said coldly. "Why should we concern ourselves with a trespasser?" "Because he is unique," Vexis replied, descending into the crater as well. "When was the last time any of us encountered something truly new, something we did not already possess or conquer?" They were talking about me like I was an object, a thing to be possessed. I tried to sit up fully and immediately gasped as my broken ribs ground together. My vision swam with black spots. Zolthara caught me before I collapsed, her strong hands steadying me. "Careful, human, you are more fragile than you appear." "My name," I gasped out, "is Daniel, not human. Daniel Cross." All 3 empresses stared at me. Then Vexis laughed, a sound like shattering crystal, beautiful and sharp. "It has a name," she said, "and pride. How delightful." Cyrith had descended into the crater now as well, circling around to my other side. 3 of the most powerful beings in this region of space all focused on me. I should have been terrified. I was terrified. But there was something else too, a strange sense that my life had just changed in ways I couldn't begin to understand. "We should let it die," Cyrith said, but her red eyes betrayed curiosity. "It is nothing to us." "On the contrary," Vexis countered. "It is the first human any of us have encountered. That makes it quite valuable." "Valuable as a specimen?" Zolthara asked. "Or valuable as something more?" The three empresses looked at each other, and I felt tension crackle between them, ancient rivalries, old conflicts, power dynamics I couldn't begin to comprehend. "My ship has medical facilities," Vexis said finally. "I will take the human and heal it." "Your facilities are adequate," Zolthara replied, "but my biorestoration chambers are superior. I should take custody." "You both speak as if you have claim," Cyrith interjected, her whisper somehow cutting through the others. "But he crashed on neutral ground. If anyone has right of salvage, we all do." They were arguing over me, fighting over who got to keep me like I was some kind of prize. I tried to speak, tried to tell them I wasn't a thing to be claimed, but another coughing fit seized me. Blood flecked my lips, definitely internal bleeding. My vision was starting to tunnel. "It is dying," Zolthara said urgently. "We must decide quickly." "Then we share custody," Vexis declared. "We heal it together, study it together. It stays in neutral territory until we determine its fate." "Acceptable," Cyrith agreed after a moment. "Agreed," Zolthara said. I wanted to protest, wanted to demand they treat me like a person instead of a specimen, but darkness was creeping in at the edges of my vision. My body was giving out. The last thing I felt was being lifted in strong arms, whose I couldn't tell, and carried toward one of the alien ships. The last thing I heard was Empress Vexis's wind chime voice. "This changes everything. Do you realize what we have found?" Then nothing. I woke to softness and the absence of pain. For a moment I thought I was dreaming. The agony that had consumed me was gone, replaced by a gentle warmth that suffused my entire body. I was lying on something that molded perfectly to my form, neither too soft nor too firm. I opened my eyes. The ceiling above me was unlike anything I'd seen. It seemed to be made of crystalline structures that pulsed with gentle light, creating patterns that flowed like water. The walls shifted between colors, blue, purple, gold, as if the room itself was alive. I sat up slowly, carefully, expecting pain that never came. My ribs were healed. My arm was whole. Even the gash on my forehead was gone, leaving only smooth skin. I was in a circular chamber, spacious and strange. 3 distinct sections divided the space, each decorated in a different style. One section was all crystal and cold blue light, Vexis's influence, I guessed. Another was flowing shadows and warm amber tones, Zolthara's domain. The third was bone white and crimson, elegant and unsettling, Cyreth's territory. A neutral ground, a shared space, a prison. "You are awake." I turned to find all 3 empresses entering the chamber through different doors. They moved with predatory grace, each one commanding attention in her own way. "How long was I unconscious?" I asked, my voice stronger now. 3 of your days," Vexis replied, settling into a seat that seemed to form from the crystalline floor. "Your injuries were extensive. It took considerable resources to repair you." "Thank you," I said, because despite everything, they had saved my life. Zolthara smiled at that, her amber eyes warming slightly. "You thank us? Even though we have essentially imprisoned you?" "You could have let me die," I pointed out. "You didn't. So, thank you." Cyrith circled behind me, and I resisted the urge to turn and watch her. "Gratitude, how very human. Tell us, Daniel Cross, what were you doing in this region of space?" "I told you, mapping, exploration, it's what I do." "Alone?" Vexis asked. "Your kind usually travels in groups according to our intelligence." "I prefer solitude," I said. I'm not important. Just a scout. Nobody back home is going to miss me much." The 3 empresses exchanged glances. "No mate?" Zolthara asked. "No offspring? No family bonds?" "No," I admitted. "It's just me." "Fascinating," Cyrith whispered. "A solitary human, even more rare than we thought." I was starting to realize that I'd stepped into something far more complicated than a simple rescue. The way they looked at me, the way they spoke about me, I wasn't just a curiosity anymore. I was something they wanted, and I had no idea what that meant for my future. The days that followed were surreal. I was kept in the shared chamber, a luxurious prison at the intersection of 3 empires. Each empress visited regularly, sometimes alone, sometimes together. They studied me, questioned me, tested me in ways both obvious and subtle, and they competed. It started small. Empress Vexis brought me meals from her home world, crystalline fruits that dissolved on the tongue, releasing flavors I had no words to describe. She would sit across from me, her silver eyes watching every reaction, every expression. "Your species requires sustenance 3 times per standard cycle," she observed during one such meal. "Inefficient, but the ritual seems important to you." "We call it breakfast, lunch, and dinner," I said, biting into something that tasted like starlight and honey. "It's not just about efficiency, it's about comfort, routine, taking time to enjoy something." Her head tilted, white hair floating around her face. "Enjoyment. You prioritize pleasure over optimal function." "Sometimes," I admitted. "Don't you?" She was quiet for a moment, her mirror-like eyes reflecting my face back at me. "I rule 14 systems, Daniel Cross. I command fleets that could shatter planets. I have not had time for enjoyment in 300 of your years." 300 years. The casual way she said it reminded me how different we were. I was 28. She had been alive since before my country existed back on Earth. "That sounds lonely," I said quietly. Her expression shifted, something flickering across her alien features that I couldn't quite read. "Lonely," she repeated as if tasting the word. "Is that what you feel? Being alone on your ship, traveling between stars with no companion?" "Sometimes," I admitted, "but I chose it. There's a difference between solitude and loneliness." "And which are you experiencing now?" I looked around the beautiful, strange chamber. "I don't know yet. Empress Zolthara took a different approach. She brought me data, holographic displays showing the vastness of her shadow territories, the diversity of species under her rule, the technological wonders her empire had achieved. "Your human civilization is young," she said, her obsidian skin gleaming as she manipulated the displays with fluid gestures. "You have barely left your home system. You understand nothing of true power." "You're right," I agreed, watching images of massive space stations and planet-wide cities scroll past. "We're young, weak compared to you, but we're learning." She turned those burning amber eyes on me. "You do not feel inferior, ashamed of your species' limitations." "Should I?" I countered. "You said yourself we're young. Children aren't inferior to adults. They're just at a different stage. We'll get there eventually." Her golden markings rippled across her skin. I was learning that meant she was intrigued. "Most species we encounter either grovel or posture when faced with our superiority. You do neither." "What would be the point?" I said. "You could kill me with a thought probably, but you haven't. So either you want something from me, or you're curious about me, or both. Groveling won't change that. Neither will false bravado." Zolthara smiled, a genuine smile that transformed her severe features. "Honest. I like that. Too many seek to deceive me, to tell me what they think I wish to hear." She moved closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from her skin. "Tell me, Daniel Cross, what do you think of me?" It was a test. I knew it was a test, but I also knew she would detect any lie. "I think you're powerful," I said carefully. "Intelligent, confident to the point of arrogance, but probably with good reason. And," I hesitated, and lonely, like Vexis, like anyone who stands at the top with no one beside them." Her markings went completely still. For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then she laughed, deep and rich, a sound that seemed to resonate in my chest. "No one has called me lonely in 1,000 years, she said. "Most would fear such presumption. Are you going to kill me for it?" "No," she said softly. "I'm going to remember it." Empress Cyrith was the most unsettling. She would appear without warning, moving through shadows like she was made of them. Her red eyes would find me wherever I was in the chamber, and she would simply watch. When she finally spoke to me directly, it was in the middle of the night cycle. I'd been trying to sleep when I felt her presence. "You dream of Earth," she whispered from the darkness near my bed. I sat up, my heart racing. She was standing at the foot of the bed, pale as a ghost, her crimson veins visible beneath translucent skin. "How do you know that?" I asked. "I can taste your emotions on the air," she said, moving closer with serpentine grace. "Fear, longing, confusion, and something else, desire." Not desire for us," she interrupted. "Desire to be free, to return to your solitary existence among the stars." She sat on the edge of the bed, and I caught her scent, something like roses and iron. "But you cannot. You understand this, yes?" "I'm beginning to," I admitted. "You 3 won't let me go." "Can't," she corrected. "We have all lived millennia, Daniel Cross. We have conquered worlds, amassed power beyond your comprehension, achieved everything our species can achieve, and we are bored, stagnant, until you fell from the sky." "I'm not a toy," I said, more forcefully than I'd intended. Her red eyes glittered. No, you are something far more valuable. You are unexpected, new, a puzzle we cannot easily solve. Do you know how rare that is for beings like us? She reached out, her pale fingers touching my hand. Her skin was cool, unlike Zolthara's heat. We three have been rivals for centuries, Cyrith continued. We have fought wars, made alliances, broken them. We have danced around each other in an endless game of power. And then you appeared, and suddenly we had something to agree on, that I'm valuable, that you are ours, she corrected. The question is how we share you. The possessiveness in her tone should have frightened me. It did frighten me. But there was something else too, a strange thrill at being wanted so intensely, even if it was for the wrong reasons. I'm a person, I said, not a possession. In your culture, perhaps. In ours, everything of value is possessed, controlled, claimed. Her fingers traced up my arm, cool and deliberate. But perhaps you could teach us a different way. If you survive. Survive? She smiled, and it was predatory. We three are powerful, Daniel Cross, and we are jealous. Our competition for you has only begun. She was right. Over the following weeks, the competition intensified. Each Empress tried to prove she was superior to the others, that she deserved my favor, my attention, my loyalty. Vexis took me aboard her flagship, a massive crystalline vessel that hummed with energy. She showed me weapons that could sterilize continents, shields that could withstand stellar radiation, engines that could fold space itself. Stay with me, she said as we stood on an observation deck, looking out at her fleet arrayed like geometric jewels against the void. My empire is the most advanced in this region. I can give you technology your species won't develop for millennia. I can make you powerful. I don't want power, I said honestly. Everyone wants power. No, I corrected. Everyone wants security, control over their own life. That's not the same thing. She turned to me, her silver eyes reflecting the stars. Then I can give you security, protection. In my empire you would never be threatened again, as long as I stayed in a cage. A very comfortable cage. I looked at her, really looked at her. Beneath the imperial bearing, the absolute confidence, I saw what I'd glimpsed before. Loneliness, isolation, the burden of being at the pinnacle with no one who understood. What do you want from me, Vexis? I asked. Really? She was silent for a long moment. I want something I have not had in 300 years. Someone who sees me not as Empress, not as weapon or asset or threat. Just me. Then talk to me like I'm a person, I said. Not a possession, not a prize, just Daniel. Something shifted in her expression, softened. Just Daniel, she repeated. I am not certain I know how. Try, I suggested. Tell me something real, something that isn't about your empire or your power. She looked out at the stars for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. I have a garden, she said, on my home world. It is private. No one else is permitted to enter. I grow crystalline flowers that bloom once every century. They are beautiful, pointless, inefficient, and I love them. I smiled. That's perfect. You think so? It means you're more than just an empress. You're a person who grows flowers. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something vulnerable in those mirror eyes. Stay with me, Daniel. Not as possession, as companion. Before I could answer, alarms blared through the ship. Vexis's expression hardened instantly, the vulnerable moment vanishing. What is it? I asked. Zolthara, she said coldly. She approaches with her fleet. She comes to make her own claim. The next days were a carefully controlled conflict. Zolthara's shadow fleet positioned itself opposite Vexis's crystalline vessels, the two empires facing off in silent threat. Neither attacked. This was neutral space, and open war would violate ancient treaties, but the tension was suffocating. Zolthara demanded to see me. When we met in the neutral chamber, she brought gifts, not technology like Vexis, but culture. My empire is not just power, she said, displaying holographic art from dozens of species. It is beauty, diversity, life in all its forms, united under one vision. The art was stunning, sculptures that seemed to move through dimensions, music that resonated in colors I could see as well as hear, poetry that tasted like memory. I rule 22 systems, Zolthara continued, each one unique, each one valued. I do not conquer to destroy, Daniel. I conquer to preserve, to protect. By forcing them under your rule? By preventing them from destroying themselves, she countered. Left alone, species fight. They develop weapons. They consume their resources and die. Under my guidance, they thrive. Is that what you want to do with me? Guide me? Protect me? Her golden markings swirled. I want to understand you. Your kind fascinates me. So young, so fragile, yet you spread across the stars anyway. You are brave or foolish, I cannot determine which. Maybe both, I admitted. She laughed. Come with me, Daniel. Leave this neutral ground. In my empire, you would not be a prisoner. You would be a guest, an honored companion. I would show you wonders that would make Vexis's technology seem cold and dead. And Cyreth? I asked. What would she say about that? Cyreth, Zolthara's expression darkened. She is different from Vexis and me. Older, more dangerous. She does not just want to possess you, Daniel. She wants to consume you. What does that mean? It means be careful when you are alone with her. As if summoned by her name, the temperature in the chamber dropped. Shadows deepened in corners where no shadows should be. Cyreth materialized from the darkness itself, her pale form seeming to draw light into her. Speaking of me, Zolthara, her whisper carried across the space. How predictable. We were discussing Daniel's future, Zolthara said calmly. A future that does not include you. Presumptuous. Cyreth glided forward, her red eyes fixed on me. Daniel is not yours to claim, nor Vexis's. He exists in our shared space, and he will remain here. Unacceptable, Zolthara said. She's right for once. Vexis's voice chimed from the entrance as she appeared. Daniel must choose. Staying in neutral territory forever is not a solution. All three Empresses were here now, their combined presence making the air feel heavy with power, and they were all looking at me. Choose, I repeated. You want me to choose between you? Yes, Vexis said. It is only logical, Zolthara agreed, and what you choose will determine much more than just your fate, Cyreth added ominously. I looked at each of them. Vexis with her cold, crystalline beauty, Zolthara with her warm power, Cyreth with her dangerous elegance. 3 Empresses, 3 empires, 3 paths forward, and me, just Daniel Cross, scout class, nobody special, somehow at the center of it all. What if I don't want to choose? I said quietly. They all stared at me. What if I refuse to be a prize in your competition? I continued, my voice stronger. What if instead of dividing me, you tried something else? Such as? Vexis asked, her tone icy. I took a breath, knowing what I was about to say was insane, but I'd seen their loneliness, their isolation, their hunger for something beyond power. What if all 3 of you shared me? I said, not as a possession, as a companion. To all of you. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Cyreth laughed, a sound like wind through a crypt. Impossible. We are rivals. We do not share. You're already sharing, I pointed out. This chamber, this neutral ground. You've kept me here together for weeks. You've cooperated more in this time than you probably have in centuries. Zolthara's markings were flowing rapidly across her skin. You propose we... What? Take turns with you? Pass you between empires like a treaty document? No, I said. I propose you stop treating me like an object. I propose we try something your empires have apparently forgotten how to do. Compromise. Cooperation. Connection. Why would we agree to this? Vexis asked. But her tone was curious, not dismissive. Because you're lonely, I said simply. All of you. You've spent so long at the top of your hierarchies that you've forgotten what it means to just be with someone. Not as empress and subject, just as people. We are not people, Cyreth said coldly. We are empresses. We are power incarnate. And that's exactly the problem, I replied. You've become your roles. You've forgotten there's more to existence than ruling. Another long silence. The 3 empresses looked at each other, ancient rivalries and calculations playing out in glances I couldn't fully interpret. Finally, Vexis spoke. This is unprecedented. Most things worth doing are, I said. He makes a compelling argument, Zolthara admitted reluctantly. He makes a dangerous proposal, Cyreth countered. Binding 3 empires together through one fragile human? Madness. Or genius, Vexis murmured. Think about it. If we truly shared him, we would have to cooperate, communicate, coexist in ways we never have before. And if it failed, Zolthara asked, if our rivalry proved stronger than this, experiment? Then we would be no worse off than we are now, Vexis replied. They were actually considering it. My insane proposal was actually being considered by 3 of the most powerful beings in this region of space. Cyreth moved closer to me, her red eyes searching my face. "You understand what you are proposing, Daniel Cross. You would bind yourself to 3 empresses, 3 rivals, 3 very different beings with very different needs." "I understand," I said, though my heart was hammering. "You would share your time, your attention, your affection between us." "Yes." "And if we demanded more?" Her whisper was dangerous. "If we wanted not just companionship, but intimacy? If we wanted to claim you in ways beyond just conversation?" My mouth went dry. I hadn't thought that far ahead, but now that she said it, I realized it was inevitable. 3 empresses, all competing for my favor, all lonely, all powerful and used to taking what they wanted. Then, I swallowed, then we'd have to figure that out. Together, with respect, with consent. Vexis's silver eyes were intense. "You would agree to this? To being shared between 3 empresses in all ways? If it meant being treated like a person instead of a possession? If it meant helping you 3 remember what it means to connect with someone? Then yes." Zolthara's markings had gone completely still. "You're either the bravest human in existence or the most foolish." "I've been told I might be both," I said, managing a weak smile. The 3 empresses looked at each other again. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication I couldn't follow. Then, simultaneously, they each placed a hand on me. Vexis's cool and crystalline on my left shoulder, Zolthara's warm and solid on my right, Cyrith's cold and pale on my chest, directly over my heart. "Then we agree," Vexis said. "To share you," Zolthara continued. "In all ways," Cyrith finished. Energy flowed through their touch, 3 distinct powers intertwining, sealing some kind of bond I didn't fully understand. It felt like lightning and shadow and ice all at once, rushing through my veins, marking me somehow. When they released me, I staggered. My skin tingled. I felt different, changed. "What did you do?" I asked. "We bound you to us," Vexis explained, "and us to you. It is done now. You are ours and we are yours, for better or worse." "The experiment begins," Zolthara said, her amber eyes gleaming. "And we shall see," Cyrith whispered, "if a fragile human can truly handle 3 empresses." I looked at them, these 3 powerful, lonely, dangerous beings who had just tied their fates to mine. What had I just agreed to? The binding changed everything. I could feel them now, not just when they were present, but always. A constant awareness at the edge of my consciousness. Vexis was a cool, crystalline presence, sharp and clear. Zolthara was warmth and depth, like standing near a fire. Cyrith was shadow and whisper, cold silk against my thoughts. They could feel me too, I realized. My emotions, my needs, my presence in their awareness, just as they were in mine. "It will fade," Vexis explained when I asked about it. "The intensity, I mean. In time it will become background sensation, but you will always know where we are, and we will always know you." We were in her garden, the secret place she'd mentioned aboard her flagship. It was more beautiful than I'd imagined. Crystalline flowers grew in impossible geometric patterns, their facets catching light and breaking it into rainbows that danced through the air. Some bloomed as we watched, their petals unfurling with sounds like distant bells. "This is where you come when you need to be alone?" I asked. "Yes." She moved between the flowers with surprising gentleness, her fingers brushing petals that chimed softly at her touch. "Here, I am not Empress. I am simply myself." "And who is that?" She smiled. A real smile, not the cold expression she wore as ruler. "I am still discovering. It has been a long time since I asked that question." I watched her tend to her flowers, this powerful being who could shatter worlds, now delicately adjusting the position of a crystalline bloom. The contrast was striking. "May I ask you something personal?" I ventured. "You may ask. I may not answer." "Fair enough. When was the last time you were close to someone? Not as Empress to subject, but just close." Her hands stilled on the flowers. For a long moment she didn't respond. Then, 347 years. "Her name was Lysandra. She was my military advisor, my confidant, She paused. "My everything. She died in battle defending my flagship from insurgents." "I'm sorry," I said quietly. I did not allow myself to be close to anyone after that. The pain was inefficient, debilitating. I decided it was better to be alone. She turned to me, her silver eyes reflecting my face. "Until you fell from the sky and made me question that decision." She moved closer, close enough that I could see tiny fractal patterns in her crystalline skin, constantly shifting and rearranging. "I do not know how to do this, Daniel," she admitted. "How to be vulnerable, how to share, how to be anything other than what I have been for centuries. Neither do I confessed. I've never been in a relationship with one person, let alone 3 empresses. We're both figuring this out. That should terrify me. Instead, it is exciting. Her hand reached up, cool fingers tracing my jaw. You are so warm, so alive, so temporary. Temporary? Your lifespan is barely a century, even with medical intervention. I will outlive you by millennia. Zolthara and Sireth as well. We will all watch you age and die while we continue on. The thought hadn't occurred to me. I would be a brief moment in their eternal lives. A flicker of warmth before the cold returned. Does that bother you? I asked. It should. It should make this futile, pointless. Her other hand came up to cup my face, her touch gentle despite her strength. But perhaps that is what makes it precious. Not despite its brevity, but because of it. She kissed me then, softly, carefully, as if I might shatter. Her lips were cool, tasting of winter starlight. The kiss was tentative, exploratory, nothing like I'd expected from an empress accustomed to taking what she wanted. When she pulled back, there was wonder in her silver eyes. I had forgotten, she whispered, what it feels like to want something beyond power. Thank you for reminding me. Zolthara's approach was different. She took me to one of her worlds, a planet called Velcora, where the sky burned amber and cities floated on rivers of liquid light. Her palace was carved from a single massive crystal that pulsed within her warmth. My empire is built on unity through diversity, she explained as we walked through galleries filled with art from hundreds of species. Each culture brings something unique. Each voice adds to the whole. But they don't have a choice about joining, I pointed out. No, she admitted, but once part of my empire, they are protected, cherished. Their art, their history, their identity, preserved forever. She gestured to the galleries. Without my intervention, half these species would have destroyed themselves in wars or environmental collapse. Now they thrive. Benevolent dictatorship, I said. Is that not better than malevolent democracy? Or democratic self-destruction? She turned those burning amber eyes on me. You humans have such strange reverence for choice, even when that choice leads to suffering. Because choice is what makes us who we are, I replied. Even bad choices, especially bad choices. That's how we learn, how we grow. Her golden markings rippled. And what bad choice led you to me? Choosing to cross an asteroid field without proper sensor calibration, I said with a slight smile. Pretty stupid in retrospect, she laughed, that deep, resonant sound that I was growing to love. Yes, very stupid, and I am grateful for your stupidity. We had dinner on a balcony overlooking her capital city. The food was incredible, flavors and textures from across her empire, each dish a masterpiece. She watched me eat with obvious pleasure. You enjoy sensory experiences, she observed. Taste, touch, sight. You live in the moment in ways I have forgotten how to do. What do empresses think about when they eat? I asked. Strategy, resources, the political implications of agricultural policy. She paused. I do not remember the last time I ate simply for pleasure. Then do it now, I suggested. Forget you're an empress for 5 minutes, just taste the food, enjoy it. She looked skeptical, but she picked up a piece of fruit, something that looked like a gem, but felt like silk. She bit into it slowly, and I watched her expression change. Surprise, delight, wonder. It is sweet, she said, amazed, and tart. And the texture, I had forgotten. That's what I mean, I said gently. You've spent so long being an empress that you forgot how to be a person who eats fruit and enjoys it. She set down the fruit and looked at me intently. You are dangerous, Daniel Cross. You make me want things I should not want. Feel things I cannot afford to feel. Like what? Like happiness. Simple, uncomplicated happiness. She reached across the table, her warm hand covering mine. Do you know what it is like to carry the weight of 22 systems? To know that billions of beings depend on your decisions? To never be able to rest because rest might mean disaster? No, I admitted, but I know what it's like to be lonely, even when you're surrounded by people. To feel like you have to be strong all the time because showing weakness means losing everything. Her markings went still, that sign of deep emotion. Yes, exactly that. Then be weak with me, I offered. Just for tonight. No empires, no responsibilities, just Zolthara and Daniel. She looked at me for a long moment, conflict clear in her burning eyes. Then she stood, pulling me up with her. Without a word, she led me through the palace to her private chambers. The room was smaller than I'd expected, intimate, decorated in amber and gold, filled with personal touches that spoke of the woman beneath the Empress, books from different worlds, small sculptures, a musical instrument I didn't recognize. "No one sees this space," she said quietly, "not even my advisors. This is where I come to remember who I am. Thank you for showing me." She turned to face me, and the vulnerability in her expression took my breath away. "I have not been touched with affection in 800 years, she whispered. "I have had mates for political alliance, partners for genetic compatibility, but no one who simply wanted to be close to me. Until you." I stepped closer, raising my hand to her face. Her skin was warm, the golden markings swirling under my touch. "I can't promise I'll be good at this. I've never—" "Neither have I," she interrupted. "Not like this, not with meaning behind it." She kissed me then, deeply, hungrily, with a passion that had been locked away for centuries. Her heat enveloped me, her strength carefully controlled, so she didn't hurt my fragile human body. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, her markings were flowing across her entire body in patterns of gold. "Stay with me tonight," she breathed. "Let me remember what it means to be wanted, to be needed, not as Empress, but as myself." "Yes," I whispered. What followed was tender and fierce all at once. She was gentle with my human fragility, but there was desperation in her touch, centuries of loneliness pouring out. Afterward, we lay tangled together, her warmth surrounding me like a living blanket. "This changes nothing about the arrangement," she murmured against my hair. "You are still bound to all three of us." "I know," I said. "Does that bother you? Sharing me?" "Yes," she admitted. "And no. It bothers the Empress in me who wants to possess completely. But the person in me, the person understands that some things are better shared than hoarded." "You're learning," I teased gently. "How you are teaching me," she corrected, "and I am trying very hard not to resent Vexis and Cyrith for the time they will have with you." "I'll always come back," I promised. "You better," she said fiercely, "or I will conquer their empires just to retrieve you." I laughed and she smiled against my shoulder. We fell asleep like that, an Empress and a human, pretending for just one night that the weight of empires didn't exist. Cyrith was the most challenging. She came to me in the neutral chamber, appearing from shadows when I was alone. Her red eyes gleamed in the darkness, her pale form seeming to glow with inner light. "You have been with them," she said. Not a question, a statement of fact. "Yes," I admitted. No point in lying to someone who could probably taste my emotions. "And now you fear me." "A little," I confessed. "Vexis and Zolthara were vulnerable with me, showed me who they are beneath the power. I don't know who you are yet." "I am death," she said simply. "I am the Crimson Dynasty, 10,000 years of blood and bone and shadow. I am what empresses become when they have lived too long and seen too much." "That's what you are," I said. "Not who you are." She glided closer, circling me like a predator. "You want to psychoanalyze me, little human. Want to find the soft center beneath the monster." "I want to understand you," I replied. "Vexis showed me her garden. Zolthara showed me her passion. What will you show me, Cyrith?" She stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I could see every crimson vein beneath her translucent skin. "I will show you why Zolthara warned you about me." Darkness erupted around us. The chamber vanished, replaced by something else entirely. We stood in a vast hall of bone and crystal, lit by red torches that cast no heat. Statues lined the walls, hundreds of them, each one unique. "My tomb garden," Cyrith whispered, "where I keep those I have loved and lost." I looked closer at the statues and realized with horror that they weren't statues. They were preserved bodies, held in perfect crystalline stasis, men, women, beings from dozens of species, all frozen in death, all displayed like art. "What is this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "My history," she said. "I have lived 10,000 years, Daniel Cross. I have had lovers, companions, friends, and I have watched every single one of them die. Age, disease, war, accident, it does not matter. They all leave, so I preserve them, keep them forever, frozen at their most beautiful moment." She moved to one statue, a male of her own species, tall and elegant, his face peaceful. "Theron, my first love, 7,000 years ago. He chose to age naturally and die rather than undergo life extension. I begged him to stay. He refused." She touched the crystalline surface gently. "So I kept him anyway." Horror and pity warred in my chest. "Cyrith, you think me monstrous," she said. You are not wrong. I am what loneliness creates over millennia. I am what happens when you live so long that everyone you love becomes a memory, unless you force them to stay. She turned to me, tears of blood running down her pale cheeks. And now I am bonded to you. You who will live barely a century. You who will leave me just like all the others. Do you understand why Zolthara warned you? I do not know if I can let you go when the time comes. I do not know if I can watch you die and not try to preserve you here, frozen forever, mine eternally. The honesty was terrifying, but it was also heartbreaking. I stepped closer to her, even though every instinct screamed to run. I'm not going to lie and say I'm not scared right now. I am. This place terrifies me. What you've done terrifies me. Good, she whispered. You should be afraid of me. But I also see the pain, I continued, the grief, the loneliness so deep it drove you to this. Cyreth, keeping bodies isn't keeping people. You know that, right? I know, she said, her voice breaking. But it is all I have. Memories fade, but this endures. I took her cold hands in mine. What if we tried something different? What if, instead of trying to preserve me forever, you just lived with me, fully, completely, for however long we have? And when you die, then you let me go. You mourn, you remember, but you don't trap my corpse in crystal like a trophy. She stared at me, those red eyes searching my face. I do not know if I can do that. I do not know if I am strong enough to lose you without trying to keep you. Then we'll figure it out together, I said. Vexis is learning to be vulnerable. Zolthara is learning to share. You can learn to let go. You ask the impossible. I ask the difficult. There's a difference. She pulled me closer, her cold body against mine. You are brave or foolish, and I still cannot determine which. Both, I admitted. Definitely both. She kissed me then, cold and desperate and hungry. It tasted like winter and blood and grief. When she pulled back, there was something fragile in her expression. Make me a promise, she whispered. What? Promise me that when you die, you will do so, knowing you were loved. That even if I fail and try to preserve you, you will know that I did it because I could not bear to lose you. Promise me you will understand. Tears stung my eyes. I promise. Then I will try, she said. For you, I will try to be better than my nature, to love without consuming, to hold without crushing. She rested her forehead against mine. But know that it will be the hardest thing I have ever done. I know, I whispered. We stood there in her tomb garden, surrounded by her frozen dead, and somehow it felt less like a horror show and more like a shrine to love that had lasted too long. It was twisted, yes. Wrong, definitely. But it was also deeply, tragically human, or whatever passed for human in a being who had lived for millennia. Take me away from here, she said quietly. Show me how to be with you in the present, instead of the past. I took her hand and led her back through the shadows to the neutral chamber. We spent the night together, her cold body gradually warming against mine, her desperate touches slowly gentling into something tender. She cried blood tears against my chest, and I held her through it, this ancient empress who had forgotten how to let go. Thank you, she whispered, as dawn light filtered through the chamber, for seeing the person beneath the monster. You're not a monster, I said. You're just someone who's been hurting for a very long time. Perhaps, she murmured, or perhaps I am both. But with you, I am willing to try to be more of the former and less of the latter. It was the best promise I could hope for. The days that followed settled into a strange but workable rhythm. I spent time with each empress, learning their worlds, their cultures, their hearts, and slowly, impossibly, they began to cooperate. Vexis shared her technology with Zolthara's scientists. Zolthara opened cultural exchanges with Cyreth's dynasty. Cyreth offered her ancient knowledge to Vexis's engineers. Small steps, but significant ones. And at the center of it all was me, fragile, temporary, human me, somehow holding together three empires through nothing more than genuine connection. It shouldn't have worked, but it did. You have done something impossible, Vexis said one evening when all four of us gathered in the neutral chamber. You have made us work together, made us care about something beyond our own power. You have reminded us what we lost in our rise to supremacy, Zolthara added. Connection, meaning, purpose beyond conquest. You have given me hope, Cyreth whispered, that perhaps love does not have to end in preservation, that perhaps letting go is possible. They all looked at me, these three powerful beings, and I felt the weight of their expectations, their hopes, their needs. It should have crushed me. Instead, it made me feel alive. I'm just one person, I said. I'm not special, I'm not powerful, I'm just me. And that, Vexis said softly, is precisely why you are invaluable. Because you do not seek power, it has found you, Zolthara agreed. Because you do not try to possess, you have been possessed, Cyrith finished. And in being possessed, you have somehow freed us all. I looked at the three of them, my empresses, my lovers, my impossibly complicated family, and realized something profound. I had crashed on an alien world expecting to die alone. Instead, I had found a home in the most unlikely place imaginable, and somehow against all odds it felt right. The peace couldn't last forever, I should have known that. 3 empires don't suddenly cooperate just because a human crashes into their territory and manages to seduce their rulers. There were generals to appease, nobles to convince, entire governmental structures that depended on the old rivalries, and there were those who saw me as a threat. The first attempt on my life came 3 months into our arrangement. I was visiting Zolthara's capital when the assassin struck. One moment I was walking through a market, marveling at the diversity of species bartering and trading. The next, energy blasts tore through the crowd, aimed directly at me. My human reflexes were too slow. I would have died if Zolthara's guards hadn't thrown themselves in front of me, their bodies absorbing the lethal energy. They died instantly, armor melting, flesh burning. Zolthara appeared within seconds, rage incarnate. Her golden markings blazed like the surface of a star. The assassin, some insectoid species I didn't recognize, tried to flee. He made it 3 steps before Zolthara's power crushed him into the ground, literally flattening him into a 2-dimensional smear. She turned to me, her amber eyes wild. "Are you hurt?" "No, I looked at the dead guards, guilt washing over me. "They died for me." "Why?" "Because I commanded it," she said. "Because you are valuable. Because losing you would mean—" She pulled me into her arms, her heat overwhelming. "It would mean everything I have gained in these months would vanish." The investigation revealed the assassin was hired by a faction within Zolthara's own empire. Nobles who saw the alliance between the 3 empresses as weakness, who believed I was corrupting their leader, making her soft. "They are not entirely wrong," Zolthara admitted later, in the privacy of her chambers. "I have changed. I care about things beyond strategy now. That makes me vulnerable." "Is that a bad thing?" I asked. "In my world, yes. Vulnerability is death." She touched my face gently. "But I find I do not care. I would rather be vulnerable with you than invulnerable and alone." "Then we need to show them I'm not just a weakness," I said. "We need to prove I can be an asset." "You are human," she said bluntly. "You have no natural abilities, no significant strength, no extended lifespan. What asset could you possibly be beyond emotional comfort?" It stung, but she wasn't wrong. I was the weakest being in a relationship with 3 of the most powerful entities in known space. I brought nothing to the table except my humanity, my empathy, my perspective, my ability to see them as people instead of empresses. But maybe that was exactly what I needed to leverage. The second attempt came a week later, more sophisticated. A virus introduced into the neutral chambers systems, designed to alter the atmospheric composition to something toxic to human biology. I woke gasping, my lungs burning, alarms blaring through the complex. Vexis materialized in seconds, her crystalline form glowing with fury. She swept me up and carried me to her ship, where medical systems purged the toxins from my body. "Twice," she said, her voice like grinding ice. "Twice in 7 days. This is unacceptable." Cyrith appeared from the shadows, her red eyes burning. "We must find who is behind this. They dare threaten what is ours." "What is ours?" Zolthara agreed, arriving through a portal of amber light. "Daniel is under our protection. Harming him is declaring war on all 3 of our empires simultaneously." They stood around my medical pod, 3 empresses united in fury. It would have been touching if I wasn't still trying to breathe normally. "Joint declaration," Vexis said. "Any attack on Daniel Cross is an attack on the Crystalline Dominion, the Shadow Territories, and the Crimson Dynasty." "Agreed," Zolthara said. "Agreed," Cyrith whispered. Within hours, the declaration was broadcast across all 3 empires. The message was clear. Touch the human, and face the combined wrath of 3 imperial powers. But I knew it wasn't enough. Declarations only worked if people believed them. And right now, too many people saw me as a curiosity, a pet, a weakness to exploit. I needed to become something more. The opportunity came from an unexpected source. A border dispute had erupted between Vexis's crystalline dominion and a neighboring empire called the Kravix Collective. It was a minor squabble over resource rights to an asteroid belt, the kind of thing that happened constantly in the complex web of galactic politics. Normally, it would be resolved through displays of military power or carefully negotiated treaties. But this time, the Kravix ambassador demanded something unusual. "We request neutral arbitration," the Kravix, a being that looked like animated stone with glowing veins of lava, announced. "And we request the human serve as arbiter." The three empresses were stunned. I was stunned. "Why me?" I asked. "Because you have no stake in the outcome," the ambassador rumbled. "Because you have no empire to favor, no political debts to repay. Because you are the only being in this region who is truly neutral." "He is human," Vexis objected. "He has no training in galactic law, no understanding of resource economics." "Perhaps," the Kravix agreed, "but he has something more valuable, a reputation for fairness. Word has spread of how you three empresses cooperate because of him, of how he sees beings as individuals rather than assets. We believe he will judge based on merit, not power." I looked at Vexis. "If I do this, will you accept my judgment?" Her silver eyes held mine for a long moment. "Even if it rules against me?" "Especially if it rules against me," I said. "If I'm going to do this, it has to be real. No favoritism, no predetermined outcomes." I could feel her reluctance through our bond, but I could also feel something else. Respect. Pride, even. "Then I accept," she said. "Let the human arbitrate." I spent 3 days reviewing the case, learning about resource rights, studying maps of the disputed territory, interviewing representatives from both sides. It was exhausting and complex, but I approached it the way I approached everything, by trying to see the people behind the politics. The crystalline dominion claimed historical precedent. They'd been mining the belt for centuries, and the resources were essential to their technological infrastructure. The Kravix Collective argued that historical precedent was meaningless if it was based on exploitation. The asteroids had been in their space before borders were redrawn by imperial conquest, and they needed the resources to feed their growing population. Both sides had legitimate points. Both sides had genuine needs. On the 4th day, I delivered my judgment in a neutral station with representatives from both empires present. "I've considered both arguments carefully," I began, my voice steady despite my nervousness. "And I've come to a conclusion that neither of you will particularly like, but both of you can accept." I pulled up a holographic display showing the asteroid belt divided into sections. "Historical precedent matters," I said, looking at Vexis. "The crystalline dominion has invested infrastructure and labor into these operations. That can't be dismissed." Then I turned to the Kravix ambassador. "But so does need and fairness. The Kravix Collective has a growing population and limited resources. That's a crisis that demands addressing." I highlighted the belt division. "Therefore, I propose a split. The crystalline dominion retains 60% of the belt, the sections where they already have active operations. The Kravix Collective receives 40%, the sections that are currently undeveloped but resource-rich." Both sides started to object, but I raised my hand. "Additionally," I continued, "the crystalline dominion will provide technical assistance to the Kravix Collective for the first 10 standard years, helping them develop their section efficiently. In exchange, the Kravix will guarantee resource trade agreements at favorable rates, ensuring the Dominion maintains access to materials they need." I paused. "This isn't about who wins or loses. It's about both sides getting what they actually need: security, resources, and respect. The Dominion keeps most of what they have. The Kravix gets room to grow and support to do it. And both empires build a trade relationship instead of festering resentment." Silence filled the chamber. Then the Kravix ambassador's lava veins brightened. "This is acceptable." All eyes turned to Vexis. I could feel her through the bond: surprise, calculation, and something that might have been admiration. "The human has wisdom beyond his years and species," she said formally. "The crystalline dominion accepts this judgment." Relief flooded through me. I'd done it. I'd actually resolved a dispute between empires, but more importantly, I'd proven I was more than just a pet or a curiosity. I had value beyond the emotional. Word spread quickly. Within weeks, other disputes were brought to me for arbitration, minor conflicts mostly, but each successful resolution built my reputation. The human who could see past politics, the neutral party who judged fairly. "You are becoming famous," Zolthara teased one evening. The arbiter of the neutral zone, they are calling you. I'm just trying to be useful, I said. You are more than useful, Sireth whispered from the shadows. You are becoming essential. Do you realize what that means? That more people will try to kill me? I guessed. Yes, she admitted, but also that more people will protect you. You are creating something unprecedented, a network of beings across multiple empires who see you as valuable, who have a vested interest in your survival. She was right. Every dispute I resolved created allies, species who had benefited from fair judgment, empires who had avoided costly conflicts. I was building something without even realizing it, a web of connections that transcended the traditional power structures. You are changing the political landscape, Vexis said, appearing with Zolthara. All three empresses were present, something that happened more frequently now. Species are beginning to see that cooperation can be more valuable than domination, that fair arbitration is possible. And it is all because of you, Zolthara added, because you showed us first, and now we show others by example. I didn't do anything special, I protested. You did the most special thing imaginable, Vexis corrected. You remained yourself. You did not become corrupted by proximity to power. You did not try to use us for your own advancement. You simply applied your human values of fairness and empathy to problems that had been solved for millennia. And in doing so, you have proven that humans, despite being weak and temporary, possess something that might be more valuable: strength. What's that? Perspective, all three said in unison. But not everyone was pleased with my growing influence. The third attempt on my life was the most dangerous. I was traveling between Sireth's territory and Vexis's when my transport ship was attacked by raiders. Not hired assassins this time, actual pirates looking to ransom or kill me for profit. The ship's defenses held for approximately 30 seconds before being overwhelmed. Alarms screamed. Hull breaches vented atmosphere. The pilot died at his station, a plasma bolt through his chest. I found myself in an escape pod, manually launching it before the main ship exploded. The pod tumbled through space, damaged and failing, broadcasting a distress signal that might take hours to reach anyone. Through the viewport, I watched the raider ship approach. They were going to capture me, kill me, probably, or worse. This was it. This was how I died. Not peacefully in my sleep centuries from now, but torn apart by pirates in the cold void of space. The fear was overwhelming, but underneath it was something else. Anger. Not at the pirates, but at the waste of it. I'd finally found something worth living for. I'd finally connected with people who saw me, truly saw me, and it was going to be ripped away. Through our bond, I felt them react. Vexis's crystal-sharp alarm, Zolthara's volcanic rage, Sireth's cold fury. They were coming, but they were too far away. The raider ship's bay doors opened, preparing to take my pod aboard. That's when the void around us rippled. 3 points of light appeared simultaneously, blue, amber, and crimson. They expanded faster than thought, and suddenly my 3 empresses stood in the vacuum of space itself. No ships, no suits, just their raw power holding them against the hostile environment. The raider ship tried to flee. It didn't make it 10 meters. Vexis gestured, and the ship's structure crystallized instantly, becoming a frozen sculpture of ice and shattered light. Zolthara's power crushed it from within, compacting metal and flesh into a dense sphere no larger than my fist. Sireth simply touched the wreckage, and it rotted, decaying into dust in seconds. They annihilated an entire raider vessel in less time than it took me to breathe. Then they were at my pod, 3 faces pressed against the viewport, relief and fury and fear written across their inhuman features. Vexis opened the pod with a gesture. Zolthara pulled me into her arms, her heat overwhelming. Sireth wrapped us both in shadows that somehow carried us through space back to the nearest station. I was shaking, adrenaline and fear and shock all hitting at once. We felt your terror through the bond, Vexis said, her voice unsteady. We felt you preparing to die. We moved faster than we have ever moved, Zolthara added, holding me so tightly it hurt. Tore rifts through space itself to reach you. If we had been seconds slower, Sireth couldn't finish the sentence. But you weren't, I said, my voice hoarse. You saved me. Because losing you is unthinkable, Vexis whispered. In 3 months, you have become as essential to us as breath. More essential, perhaps, because we can survive without breath through technology. But we cannot survive without you. Zolthara pulled back enough to look at me, tears streaming down her obsidian face. Do you understand? You have become the center of our existence, all 3 of us. If you had died, We would have torn this galaxy apart in grief and rage. That's a lot of pressure to put on one human, I said weakly. It is the truth, Sireth said. You asked us to be vulnerable. This is our vulnerability. You are the one weakness we cannot eliminate, cannot armor against, and we would not change it even if we could. They held me between them, 3 empresses clinging to one fragile human in the aftermath of almost losing him. I need better protection, I said finally. If I'm going to keep doing this arbitration work, if I'm going to keep being useful, I need to not be such an easy target. Agreed, Vexis said immediately. Personal shields, quantum entangled tracking, automated defense systems, and training, Zolthara added. You cannot defend yourself, that must change. And you will never travel alone again, Sireth finished. One of us, or our most trusted guards, will always be with you. Isn't that extreme? I asked. No, all 3 said simultaneously. I looked at them. These 3 powerful beings who had somehow become dependent on my continued existence. It was terrifying and humbling and strangely beautiful. Okay, I agreed. Okay, we'll do all of that. But I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to stop the work. It's too important. We know, Vexis said, and we would not ask you to. That is part of why we love you. Your refusal to be anything other than yourself, despite the danger. Love, I repeated. They'd never used that word before. Yes, Zolthara confirmed. Is that so surprising? A little, I admitted. I'm just human. I'm temporary. I'll be gone in a blink of your eternal lives. Which makes every moment precious, Sireth said softly. Which makes you precious. We love you, Daniel Cross. Separately and together. Completely and eternally. For however long your eternity lasts. Tears stung my eyes. I love you too. All 3 of you. This impossible, complicated, insane arrangement. I love it. I love you. We stayed like that, 4 beings in a quiet station, while outside the news spread. The human arbitrator had been attacked and saved by 3 empresses working in perfect cooperation. The human was valuable. The human was protected. The human was loved. And anyone who thought to test that again would face consequences beyond imagination. The days following the attack saw a shift in how I was treated across all 3 empires. Before, I was a curiosity, a pet maybe, a weakness to exploit. Now I was recognized as something else. A bridge between empires, yes, but also a being under the combined protection of 3 of the most powerful entities in known space. To harm me was to invite annihilation. My arbitration requests tripled. Some were legitimate disputes. Others were clearly pretexts. Species wanting to meet the famous human, to see if the stories were true. I met with refugees from war-torn systems, negotiating asylum agreements. I mediated trade disputes between rival corporations. I even helped resolve a succession crisis in a minor empire by pointing out that their laws allowed for shared rule, a concept they'd never considered. Each success built my reputation. Each resolution proved that empathy and fairness could achieve what force could not. You are becoming more than a companion, Vexis observed one evening. You are becoming a political force in your own right. That wasn't the goal, I said. No, Zolthara agreed, but it is the result. You have shown the galaxy that humans, despite their limitations, possess unique value. Other species are beginning to reassess their assumptions about your kind. Some are even requesting human arbitrators for their own disputes, Sireth added. Your species may find themselves in high demand as diplomats and mediators. It was strange to think about. Earth was still isolated, still young in galactic terms. But I might be paving the way for humanity to have a role in the larger community, not as warriors or conquerors, but as peacemakers. That's good, I said. That's what I'd want for my people, to be valued for what we are, not feared or dismissed for what we're not. And what are you? Vexis asked curiously. I thought about it. We're survivors, adapters. We care about things beyond logic and efficiency. We feel deeply, love fiercely, and try to make things better even when it's impossible. We're flawed and temporary and weak. I looked at my 3 empresses. But we're also hopeful. And sometimes, hope is the most powerful thing in the universe. Hope, Zolthara repeated. Yes, you have given us that. Hope that our empires can be more than engines of conquest. Hope that power can be used for creation instead of domination. Hope that we can be more than what we have been for millennia. You have changed us, Vexis said simply. Changed everything, and we are grateful. Even knowing it will end? I asked quietly. Even knowing I'll die and leave you? Sireth came to me, taking my face in her cold hands, especially knowing that, because you have taught me that love is not about possession, it is not about preservation, it is about being fully present with another soul for as long as time allows. She kissed me softly. When you die, I will not add you to my tomb garden. I will let you go, I will mourn, and I will remember. That is the gift you have given me, the courage to love without consuming. We will all remember, Zolthara said, and we will honor your memory by continuing what you started. Cooperation, fairness, seeing beings as individuals, not resources. The galaxy will be better because you were in it, Vexis finished. Even if only for a moment. That is legacy enough for any being. I held them close. These three ancient, powerful, impossible women who had somehow become my family, my loves, my home. Then let's make that moment count, I said. Let's change as much as we can, while we can. Let's show the galaxy what's possible when empires work together instead of against each other. Agreed, they said together. And in that agreement, something shifted, something profound. Three empires bound by something stronger than treaties or military alliances, bound by love for one fragile human who had crashed into their lives and changed everything. 6 months after I crashed on that purple world, everything had changed. The three empires weren't just cooperating, they were thriving together. Trade routes that had been closed for centuries now flowed freely between territories. Scientific knowledge was shared, cultural exchanges happened regularly. Species that had viewed each other with suspicion now worked side by side. And at the center of it all was me, still just Daniel Cross, somehow holding together an alliance that should have been impossible. But there was one question that remained unresolved. We need to make this official, Vexis said during one of our meetings in the neutral chamber. All three Empresses were present, as they usually were these days. What we have created, this alliance, this cooperation, it cannot remain dependent on informal agreements. She is right, Zolthara agreed. We have built something unprecedented, but it exists in legal ambiguity. If anything happened to any of us, our successors might not honor these arrangements. Then we formalize it, I said. Draft treaties, create binding agreements. Treaties can be broken, Sireth whispered. We need something stronger, something that makes the three empires truly one. They looked at each other, then at me. I felt something moving through our bond. Anticipation, nervousness, desire. What are you suggesting? I asked, though I thought I knew. A union, Vexis said carefully. Not just political, not just personal, but complete. The three Empresses of the Crystalline Dominion, the Shadow Territories, and the Crimson Dynasty, formally bound together. With you as the connection point. You mean marriage, I said. Your human term is inadequate, Zolthara corrected. This would be deeper. A binding recognized across all our territories. You would become our consort, officially, legally, eternally. And we would become yours, Sireth added, bound not just by affection, but by law and custom. Three empires united through one human. My heart was racing. That would change everything. Yes, Vexis agreed. It would make you untouchable. Any attack on you would be an attack on three imperial bloodlines simultaneously. It would give you legal authority to arbitrate disputes with our backing. It would make our alliance unbreakable. It would also, Zolthara said quietly, make permanent what has been temporary. It would mean we are truly committed to this path, to you, to each other, until your death. The reminder of my mortality hung in the air. I would live maybe another 70 years if I was lucky. They would live for millennia beyond that. This union would be a blink for them. Are you certain you want that? I asked. To bind yourselves to someone who will be gone so soon? We are certain, all three said together. Sireth moved closer, taking my hand in her cold fingers. I have lived 10,000 years without me. You have given me 6 months of I would trade another 10,000 years for 6 more months with you. I ruled for centuries believing power was everything, Zolthara said, her amber eyes bright with emotion. You taught me that connection is power, that love is strength. I would give up every system in my empire for one more day with you. I spent 300 years building walls around my heart, Vexis added, her voice soft. You broke them down in weeks. You reminded me what it means to be alive. I would choose your temporary presence over eternal solitude without hesitation. I looked at these three impossible women, feeling the weight of their love through our bond. They were offering me something beyond imagination, to become the consort of three empresses, to unite three empires, to change the course of galactic history. There's something else you need to consider, I said carefully. A union like this, It would mean more than just political alliance, it would mean complete commitment, including physical union, Cyrith finished. Yes, we would expect to bond with you in all ways, to create heirs if possible, though human-alien compatibility is uncertain, to be with you completely. All three of you, I said, together. Does that concern you? Vexis asked. It terrifies me, I admitted honestly. You're three of the most powerful beings in existence. You could kill me accidentally, and I'm supposed to, with all of you. We would never harm you, Zolthara said firmly. We have learned control. We have learned gentleness. We would protect you even from ourselves. Besides, Cyrith added with a hint of dark humor, we have already been intimate with you separately. Joining together would simply complete the circle. She wasn't wrong. Over the past months, I had shared myself with each of them, but the thought of all three together was overwhelming in ways I couldn't fully articulate. I need time to think, I said. Of course, Vexis said. This is not a decision to be made lightly. Consider what we offer. Consider what it means. And when you are ready, give us your answer. I spent 3 days in contemplation. The political implications were clear. This union would fundamentally alter the balance of power in this region of space. 3 empires working as one would be unstoppable. But it would also create stability, reduce conflict, save countless lives. The personal implications were more complex. I had crashed here, expecting to die alone. Instead, I'd found love, not just once, but 3 times over. I'd found purpose. I'd found a home. These 3 ancient, powerful beings had chosen me, Daniel Cross, nobody special, and had let me see their vulnerability, their loneliness, their hearts. How could I say no to that? But there was still fear. Fear of inadequacy. Fear of not being enough for 3 empresses who could have anyone, anything they wanted. Fear of the physical reality of bonding with beings so powerful they could crush me without meaning to. On the 3rd evening, I called them together. They appeared in the neutral chamber, waiting silently for my answer. I've made my decision, I said, but I need to ask you something first. Why me, really? I know what you've said, that I'm neutral, that I bring perspective, that I make you feel things you'd forgotten, but there must be thousands of beings who could do that. Why specifically me? They looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them. Finally, Vexis spoke. Because you are genuine. In a galaxy full of beings who scheme and manipulate, who seek power and advantage in every interaction, you simply exist. You treat us like people. You see us, not our empires, not our power, not what we can do for you, just us. Because you are kind, Zolthara added. Kindness is rare among the powerful. We have been rulers so long we had forgotten what it felt like to be treated with simple, uncomplicated kindness. You gave that back to us. Because you are brave, Cyrith whispered. Not the bravery of warriors or conquerors. The bravery of continuing to be vulnerable even when it hurts. Of choosing connection even when isolation would be safer. Of loving even when you know it will end in loss. That kind of courage is rarer than any power. Their words struck deep. They saw me, really saw me, in ways I'd never been seen before. Then my answer is yes, I said. I accept your proposal. I will bind myself to you, all of you, completely. The relief and joy that flooded through our bond was overwhelming. Vexis's crystal clarity, Zolthara's volcanic warmth, Cyrith's cold silk, all of it washing over me at once. They moved as one, surrounding me, holding me between them. Then we shall make preparations, Vexis said. This will be the first tri-imperial union in recorded history. It must be done properly. With witnesses from all 3 empires, Zolthara agreed. Representatives from every species under our rule. This must be public, official, beyond question. And after the ceremony, Cyrith whispered, her red eyes gleaming, we shall complete the bond. Privately, the 4 of us. Together. Heat rushed through me at the thought. Fear and desire mixing in equal measure. I'm trusting you not to break me, I said, trying to lighten the moment. We will worship you, Zolthara promised. We will be so careful, so gentle. You will know pleasure beyond imagination, but never pain. And if it becomes too much, Vexis added, you need only say so. We will stop always. Your consent is paramount. Even empresses can be denied, I teased. By you, Cyrith said. Always. You are the only being in existence who can tell us no, and we will listen. It was a strange kind of power, to be the weakest person in the relationship, but hold the most control over intimacy. But it felt right. Safe, even. "Then let's do this," I said. "Let's unite 3 empires and change the galaxy." The ceremony took 2 weeks to prepare. Representatives came from across 3 empires, hundreds of species, thousands of dignitaries. The neutral station was expanded to accommodate them all. Ships filled the space around us like a metal constellation. I was given formal attire, a blend of styles from all 3 empires, crystalline threads from Vexis's domain woven into fabric from Zolthara's worlds, dyed in the crimson and white of Cyreth's dynasty. It was beautiful and strange, and somehow perfectly me. The ceremony itself was held in a specially constructed amphitheater, open to space on one side with only energy shields keeping atmosphere in. I stood at the center, while representatives of all 3 empires bore witness. Vexis entered first, her crystalline form radiant, dressed in armor of pure light. The representative of the crystalline dominion announced her titles, a list so long it took 5 minutes. Zolthara came next, power radiating from her obsidian skin, robes of living shadow flowing around her. Her titles were equally impressive, encompassing 22 systems and countless achievements. Cyreth arrived last, pale and elegant, her crimson veins glowing beneath translucent skin. Her titles spoke of bloodlines spanning 10,000 years, of dynasties that had shaped galactic history. They stood in a triangle around me, power incarnate, 3 empresses who could reshape worlds with a thought. And then they knelt. The amphitheater erupted in shocked murmurs. Empresses did not kneel, ever. It was unthinkable, but they did. All 3, lowering themselves before me. "We kneel not in submission," Vexis said, her voice carrying across the space, "but in recognition. This human, Daniel Cross, has achieved what we could not. Unity, peace, understanding. He has reminded us that power without purpose is empty, that conquest without connection is hollow. He has shown us that strength comes in many forms," Zolthara continued, "that vulnerability is not weakness, that love is not a liability. He has made us better than we were. And so we choose to bind ourselves to him," Cyreth finished, "not as his empresses, but as his partners, his equals in this union. We 3 choose him and we choose each other, and we choose a future built on cooperation rather than conflict." They rose, each taking one of my hands. Cyreth placed her cold palm over my heart. "I, Vexis of the crystalline dominion, bind myself to Daniel Cross and to my sister Empresses, 3 empires, 1 heart, 1 purpose, 1 future. I, Zolthara of the shadow territories, bind myself to Daniel Cross and to my sister Empresses, 3 powers, 1 vision, 1 commitment, 1 love. I, Cyreth of the Crimson Dynasty, bind myself to Daniel Cross and to my sister Empresses, 3 bloodlines, 1 bond, 1 union, 1 eternity, however long it lasts." Power flowed through their touch, crystalline, volcanic, shadowed, intertwining with my human warmth. The bond that had existed between us deepened, became something more permanent, more profound. And then it was my turn. I, Daniel Cross, human of Earth, accept this bond. I accept you, Vexis Zolthara Cyreth, as my partners, my loves, my family. I give you my heart, my loyalty, my remaining years, and I promise to always see you not as empresses, but as the people you are beneath the power. Light erupted around us, blue, amber, and crimson intertwining with pure white. It filled the amphitheater, visible across space, a beacon of 3 empires united. When it faded, we stood hand in hand, bound by something deeper than law or custom, bound by choice, by love, by hope for a better future. The amphitheater erupted in cheers, hundreds of species, thousands of voices, celebrating something that should have been impossible. 3 empresses and 1 human, united, forever. The celebration lasted 3 days. There were feasts showcasing cuisine from across 3 empires, performances by artists from hundreds of worlds, diplomatic meetings where alliances were formalized, trade agreements signed, conflicts resolved. But through it all I felt the anticipation building. The bond would not be complete until we had been together. All 4 of us, in private, in intimacy. On the 3rd night after the last guests had departed and the station had quieted, my 3 wives, the word still felt strange and wonderful, came to me. We had prepared a chamber specifically for this. It was beautiful, combining elements from all 3 empires, crystalline walls that glowed softly, warm, ambient light, shadows that moved like silk, a bed large enough for all of us, impossibly soft. "Are you nervous?" Vexis asked as we entered. "Terrified," I admitted, "but also ready." "We will go slowly," Zolthara promised. "This is not a race. This is about connection, about completing what we began, about making you feel cherished," Cyreth added, "worshipped, loved in every way we know how." They undressed me carefully, 3 sets of hands removing the ceremonial clothing with reverence. When I stood before them, vulnerable and human and so much weaker than them, I expected to feel inadequate. Instead, I felt powerful, because they looked at me with desire, yes, but also with love, with wonder, as if I were the most precious thing in existence. "Your turn," I said, my voice rough. They smiled, all 3 of them, and let their own coverings fall away. Vexis's crystalline form glowed with inner light, every angle and curve perfect, alien and beautiful. Zolthara's obsidian skin shimmered with golden patterns that flowed like living art, strong and powerful and warm. Cyreth's pale translucence showed every crimson vein, elegant and dangerous and cold. 3 empresses, 3 different kinds of beauty, all focused on me. What followed was beyond description. They were careful, so careful, mindful of my human fragility, but they were also passionate, showing me pleasures I'd never imagined. Vexis's cool touch contrasting with Zolthara's heat. Cyreth's whispered words of devotion mixing with the others' sounds of pleasure. There was no jealousy, no competition, only cooperation, each of them learning what brought me pleasure, what made me gasp, what made me cry out. And in return, I learned them. What touches made Vexis's crystalline structure resonate with pleasure, what caresses made Zolthara's markings blaze, what kisses made Cyreth's cold body warm. We moved together like a dance, 4 bodies finding harmony. They took turns, sometimes individually, sometimes together. They showed me things I'd only imagined, used their powers in ways that heightened every sensation without overwhelming. And through it all, the bond between us deepened. I felt what they felt. They felt what I felt. Pleasure multiplied by 4, shared and amplified until it was almost unbearable. When we finally collapsed together, tangled and exhausted and complete, I understood something profound. This wasn't just physical. This was connection at its deepest level. This was 4 beings becoming one, if only for a moment. This was love made manifest. That was... I couldn't find words. "Perfect," Vexis finished, her silver eyes soft. "Complete," Zolthara agreed, holding me close. "Forever remembered," Cyreth whispered. "Even after you are gone, this night will remain with us across all our remaining years." We lay together as the station's artificial night cycle deepened around us, 4 beings from different worlds now bound in every possible way. "What happens now?" I asked eventually. "Now we build," Vexis said. "We take this unity and expand it. We show the galaxy what is possible. Now we govern together," Zolthara added. 3 empires working as one, with you as our heart and conscience. "Now we live," Cyreth said simply, "for however long we have, fully, completely, without fear of the ending." I looked at them, my wives, my partners, my family. 3 empresses who had chosen to bind themselves to one fragile human. "Then let's make it count," I said. "Every day, every moment." "Agreed," they said together. The years that followed were the best of my life. The 3 empires became known as the Tri-Union, an alliance so strong that conflict within its borders became almost non-existent. Other empires sought to join, drawn by the stability and prosperity we created. I continued my work as arbiter, but now with official authority backed by 3 imperial powers. Disputes that would have led to wars were resolved peacefully. Species that had been enemies for millennia learned to cooperate, and my 3 wives, they flourished. Vexis expanded her technological research into areas that benefited life rather than war. Her crystalline cities became centers of learning and art. She smiled more, laughed more, tended her garden, and sometimes brought me flowers that chimed when the light hit them right. Zolthara opened her empire to cultural exchange like never before. Art and music flowed freely across borders. She rediscovered pleasure in small things, good food, beautiful sunsets, the feel of my hand in hers. Her loneliness faded, replaced by contentment. Cyreth closed her tomb garden. She didn't destroy it. That would have been disrespectful to the memories, but she stopped adding to it. She learned to let go of the past and live in the present, to love without the desperate need to possess forever. And me? I grew older, grayer, slower. My human body aged while theirs remained eternal. But I was happy, more than happy. I was fulfilled. I had found purpose. I had found love. I had changed the galaxy, just a little bit, just enough to matter. 47 years after I crashed on that purple world, I lay in bed surrounded by my 3 wives. My body was failing. Even with the best medical technology from 3 empires, human lifespans had limits. I was 75 years old, which wasn't bad for a scout who'd lived a hard life before all this. But I was dying. We all knew it. "I am not ready," Vexis said, her voice breaking. Tears that looked like liquid crystal ran down her face. "I am not ready to let you go." "Neither am I," Zolthara whispered, her markings dim with grief. 47 years is not enough. It will never be enough." "I promised I would let you go," Sarith said, blood tears staining her pale cheeks. "I promised I would not preserve you. But it is the hardest thing I have ever done." I took their hands, Vexis's cool crystal, Zolthara's warm strength, Sareth's cold silk, and smiled. "You've given me more than I ever dreamed possible," I said, my voice weak but steady. I was nobody, just a scout, just one human among billions. But you saw me, you loved me, you let me change things. "You changed everything," Vexis corrected. "The galaxy is better because you were in it. 3 empires are united because of you," Zolthara added. "Countless lives have been saved because of your compassion. And we are better," Sareth finished. "We are more than we were, more than we could have been without you." "Then it was worth it," I said. "Every moment, every challenge, every beautiful, impossible day with you 3. I could feel my strength fading. The bond between us flickered like a candle in wind. "I need you to promise me something," I said. "Anything," they said together. "Promise me you'll continue this, the tri-union, the cooperation, the peace. Don't let my death break what we built." "We promise," Vexis said firmly. "Your legacy will continue. For as long as we exist, the tri-union will stand." "Promise me you'll find happiness again," I continued. "Not immediately. Mourn me, miss me, but eventually let yourselves heal. Let yourselves love again, if you can." "That seems impossible," Zolthara said. "But we will try," Sareth added. "For you. Because you would want us to live, not just exist." "Good," I said. I was so tired. "One more thing." "Yes?" They leaned closer, all 3 of them. "Thank you for seeing me, for loving me, for giving meaning to my existence. You 3 are the best thing that ever happened to me. And you to us," Vexis whispered. "Forever and always." I closed my eyes, feeling them around me, feeling their love through the bond, feeling peaceful. "I love you," I said. "All of you, so much." "We love you," they replied, "until the stars go cold." The bond flickered once more. Then, silence. Daniel Cross died peacefully, surrounded by the 3 empresses who had loved him, who had been changed by him, who would carry his memory across the millennia to come. They mourned for a standard year, 3 empires draped in ceremonial colors. All work stopped, all conflicts paused in respect for the human who had united them. Then slowly they began to live again. The tri-union stood strong, grew stronger. It became a model for cooperation that spread across the galaxy. Other empires joined. Conflicts decreased. A golden age began, and in 3 separate places, a crystalline garden, a floating palace, and a sealed chamber that used to be a tomb, 3 empresses tended memorials to one fragile human who had crashed into their lives and changed everything. They never forgot him, they never stopped missing him, but they also never regretted loving him, even knowing it would end. Because Daniel Cross had taught them the most important lesson of all. Love is not measured by duration, but by depth. Connection is not weakened by impermanence, but made precious by it. And sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is not strength or knowledge or immortality. Sometimes it's simply the courage to be human. Epilogue. 200 years after Daniel's death, representatives from the Terran Exploration Initiative arrived in Tri-Union space, looking for information about their long-lost scout. They were brought before 3 ancient empresses who ruled together in unprecedented harmony. "Daniel Cross," Vexis said, her silver eyes reflecting centuries of memory. "Yes, we remember him. He changed our worlds," Zolthara added, her markings bright with affection, even after so long. "He was our husband," Sareth whispered, "our heart, our humanity." The Terran representatives stared in shock. Their scout, their nobody scout, had married 3 empresses, had united 3 empires. "Tell us about Earth," Vexis requested. "We would like to know more about the world that produced such a being." And so began a new chapter, one where humanity took its place among the stars, not through conquest or force, but through the legacy of one man who had shown the galaxy the power of compassion, empathy, and love. Daniel Cross had crashed alone, expecting to die. Instead, he had lived beautifully, loved completely, and left behind a galaxy forever changed. And in the end, what more could anyone ask for? The end.